Spiritual and religious traditions promise a liberation from suffering and an eternal bliss through what's called enlightenment, awakening, God realization, nirvana, or heaven. Now, I believe in the power of positive thinking, that we can improve our patterns of thoughts and beliefs and create much better lives for ourselves. But as Abraham Hicks teaches, there will always be contrast, experiences of things that we don't want that create new desires of things that we do want. At first, we notice the absence of that wanted thing, and then we have to align with it to manifest it into our lives. But there may always be that constant back and forth of noticing the absence of wanted and then getting it. But come on, a lasting, unconditional happiness? That's what spiritual religious teachings are said to offer. The perennial philosophy of realizing the divinity within us for permanent bliss. But as you can tell in my mock portrayal of things that make me happy, everything is temporary, or in Buddhist terminology, impermanent. Things constantly change. Even the most pleasurable experiences are fleeting, so we're forced to seek one gratifying experience after another. So regardless of experiences and conditions, can we really be happy all the time? Rhonda Byrne has been one of the biggest proponents and popularizers of the law of attraction, and even she has written about a deeper spirituality in her new book, The Greatest Secret. I just got this book, and one of the first things I took away from it is how dense it is. Not in terms of content, but in terms of weight. I mean, I was really surprised. First there's only the hardcover version, and then these pages must be the thickest stock printable. This is the first time I'm opening it. I'm actually listening to the audiobook version instead. I've gotten to chapter 7 where she mentions how she started to look for answers beyond the secret, beyond the law of attraction. She had a deep depression caused by her daughter becoming very sick, and she found that she couldn't think positive thoughts the way she was used to get out of her depression. Her solution came when she stopped resisting the negative feelings and instead welcomed them in, accepted them, and surrendered to them according to the new practices she learned. The whole premise of the book is that we should be able to dissolve such negative feelings by identifying less with our personal selves as separate, limited minds and bodies. And instead, we should identify more with our true nature as infinite consciousness. And the reason this works is supposedly because our true nature is inherently peaceful and happy. But how do we do that? How can we identify more with this broader perspective, this infinite consciousness? The first step must be to believe that it exists, that it's who we are. That's why Abraham often asks questioners in the very beginning if they believe they are source energy. And for those of us that are spiritual or religious, we may be able to easily believe in an infinite consciousness or God, and then make the next step of realizing the divinity within. But if we're not so inclined, we can still come to this understanding in a very rational and analytical way, too. Hinduism has the teachings of Advaita Vedanta that promises a direct path to realizing our true nature. They have what are called vivekas, ways to discern the reality for ourselves through rational comparative thinking. I'll hit on it a little bit now, but I want to cover this more specifically in future videos. So I'm not going to expound on how to become enlightened in this one. Comment and subscribe if you'd like to see this. But why speculate that our true nature is 1. Infinite consciousness, and 2. Naturally peaceful and happy? Why can't we just be these individual and limited minds and bodies? We can start with our own experience. Whatever we really are is always present in all of our changing life experiences. We therefore can't be those changing life experiences ourselves. It's a distinction between the unchanging and the changing. This is one viveka. Our bodies grow older and change. Our thoughts are fleeting. Our beliefs get updated. Emotions arise and subside. And relationships and experiences come and go. But through it all, there's a constant knowing element. The knowing element of all of our experiences, the continuity of self that we simply call I. Physicalists would like to reduce this to something in the brain or nervous system, but still haven't been able to do so. At the same time, the only thing we ever experience isn't physical, it's mental. Everything we experience in terms of thoughts, emotions, and even perceptions and sensations of the physical world are in our consciousness. The feeling of existence of I am is in our consciousness. But stripped of everything that we're conscious of, thoughts, feelings, sensations, and perceptions, there's only what Rupert Spira calls an open and empty space of awareness, a pure consciousness. That's what Vedanta claims to be our true nature. Before being qualified by any experience in particular, and yet with all experiences arising from it, it's said to be infinite. It's literally the totality of all potential and manifest experiences, everything that makes up the apparent reality of our universe. And since it's everything already, there's nothing it can become. It's already and always complete. From our perspective, that completeness is a feeling of fulfillment, of peace and happiness. It's a feeling that everything's already perfect as is, with no need to seek or avoid any particular experience. And for those of us that are used to chasing the next positive outcome, it's a feeling of relief. And if we really think about it, that's what happiness actually is, a feeling of relief. We're happiest the very moment we get what we want, and it subsides immediately, or at least gradually after. And the reason for that initial happiness is because it's a moment of relief from having to keep pursuing what we wanted because we just got it. As Rupert Spira said, happiness comes from the cessation of the seeking that preceded it. And if we really think back on all of our happiest moments, the new relationship, the big achievement, the acquisition of an object, that moment of relief upon fulfilling the desire is where our happiness comes from. For that to continue, we have to keep seeking new gratifying experiences and avoiding unpleasant ones. And that may be okay in the whole adventure of this play of life, but it's susceptible to struggle, disappointment, and suffering. It's a beautiful temple and a beautiful sunset. In this spiritual tradition, and many others, there's a promise of a more lasting happiness that isn't dependent on specific experiences or conditions. It's a causeless joy and unconditional happiness. And I want to continue exploring this in future videos. Like and comment if this resonated with you, and if you want to see more, and subscribe below to follow me on my journey. See you next time.